The European Commission has confirmed that discussions between Brussels and Spain were ongoing regarding extra financial support for Ceuta after 72,000 individuals entered the Spanish autonomous city in Morocco last week.
We can actually confirm that yesterday the Commission actually received a first needs assessment from Spain. So we're now really very quickly looking into this document, really to identify the best way we can provide support.
The Commission said the application has not yet been finalized, nor has the amount of funding requested. The amount would be in addition to the 114 million euros of emergency assistance already made available following an extraordinary meeting convened to discuss the migration crisis on Tuesday.
It could cover a range of elements, going first from equipment and services for border management. In view of the current situation, we see the need, and also it could also provide humanitarian assistance and medical assistance.
Spanish officials said on Monday that 70,000 individuals had already returned to Morocco after last week's episode, which resulted in at least 88 deaths. Despite this, up to 5,000 individuals, including 860 unaccompanied minors, have remained, according to the president of Ceuta. NGOs operating in Ceuta say they are not prepared to deal with this type of crisis, adding that many children who arrived are suffering from heat stroke and hunger. One week after tens of thousands of migrants attempted to cross the border from Morocco into the Spanish territory of Ceuta, the city is still struggling to return to normal. Meanwhile, Spain's Civil Guard has produced a 6-page report examining the possibility of another mass migrant crossing into Ceuta on the 15th of August, based on an analysis of unverified information circulating online. The tragedy left at least 88 dead and dozens missing. As a result, the Civil Guard has opened a support office for family members at the Tarajal crossing to help locate those whose whereabouts remain unknown. While most of the 72,000 who crossed the border have left, several thousand still roam the streets, hundreds of them unaccompanied minors. Ceuta's president has called the situation unsustainable and is calling for more government aid. The Ceuta government says it has more than 1,100 unaccompanied minors in its care, even though its centers have a theoretical capacity for just 90. The children are enduring dire conditions with limited access to food, water, shelter, and sanitation. The charity Save the Children has called for urgent efforts to locate and register all minors, warning that girls in particular face heightened risks of violence, trafficking, and exploitation.
For the first time in its history, the Bundeswehr is permanently deploying a combat brigade abroad. By the end of 2027, around 5,000 German troops will be stationed in Lithuania. For the Baltic state, which borders Belarus and Russia's Kaliningrad exclave, the brigade represents a vital security guarantee. For Vilnius, the brigade is a clear sign of Germany's long-term commitment.
In Lithuania, it has very positive effect. In Lithuania, more than 80% of population trust Germany and Germany's decision. So this is also something to bear in mind. This is the fact that I always share with my colleagues in Germany, saying that you are not only welcome, we believe in what you are doing, we have no doubts, and we believe in our joint future. So from our side, it's also additional part from our side what concerns host nation support. We're doing maximum.
But the brigade isn't just there to reassure Lithuania. It's also meant to send a clear message to any potential aggressor.
For the adversaries that would think that this part of the front line of NATO is somehow weak, so it proves that they're wrong, and the message is very clear. So troops are here already, and they will be increased. And this is the clear sign that the defense will be, if it is needed, turned on from the very first second. So I see it as the factor for effective deterrence.
For Lithuania, the brigade marks a new chapter in its defense partnership with Germany, one built on a permanent presence rather than temporary deployments.
Sweden will hand over to Kyiv a seized Russian Shadow Fleet cargo ship, which Ukraine suspects of transporting grain stolen from its occupied territory. It comes after the Supreme Court on the 4th of August dismissed an appeal by Kafa Shipping Limited, which owns the 96-meter Kafa, in a bid to block the transfer requested by Ukraine and approved by two lower courts in Sweden. On Thursday, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha thanked Sweden, saying, quote, "This landmark decision sets an important precedent." The Kafa, which was sailing under a false Guinean flag, was headed for St. Petersburg when armed Swedish police boarded it early March off Trelleborg on its southern coast. 10 of the 11 crew on board were Russian nationals. According to the Ystad District Court in Stockholm, authorities had acted on a request for legal assistance from Ukraine, with Kafa being the subject of investigation. Analysts believe Moscow's shadow fleet consists of aging ships in poor condition, without proper insurance and with opaque ownership, which are often used to skirt Western sanctions.
Meta must pay $567 million into a state fund designed to address the negative effects of social media on minors, according to a ruling by a New Mexico court. At the end of the first phase of the trial in May, the court ruled that the social media giant was aware of the harmful mental effects of its platforms on young people, but failed to address them adequately, just as it failed to take appropriate action against child trafficking on its platforms.
Intentionally did so.
At that time, Meta was also fined $375 million. The current amount is in addition to that, bringing the total payment obligation to nearly $1 billion, which still pales in comparison to the company's projected $60 billion in profits for 2025. The court also ordered Meta to implement a long list of measures to make its platforms less addictive and better at screening out minors. The company is appealing the decision.
Hiroshima marked the 81st anniversary of the U.S. atomic bombing of the western Japanese city on Thursday. The city's mayor criticized major powers for waging wars and resorting to nuclear threats. He urged them to stop justifying the possession of nuclear weapons as a method of deterrence.
今年開催された NPT 再検討会議では過去2回に続き成果文書が不採択となりました。その原因は他国に責任を転嫁し、自国の行動を正当化する為政者の言動にあります。核兵器の非人道性を軽視し、自国の繁栄のための武力行使を認めることは、暴力を伴う報復の連鎖を許容し、第3の広島、長崎を作り出すことになりかねません。
Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi, who attended the memorial for the first time as Prime Minister, said she will take a realistic approach toward achieving a world where nuclear weapons are never used. The ceremony, however, comes at a time of speculation that Takaichi's government may ease its non-nuclear principles.
我が国は非核三原則を堅持しており、唯一の戦争被爆国として核兵器のない世界の実現に向けた努力をたゆまず続けていく使命を担っています。
The bombing of Hiroshima on the 6th of August in 1945 destroyed the city and killed 140,000 people. A second bomb dropped 3 days later and Nagasaki killed 70,000. Japan surrendered on the 15th of August, ending World War II and Japan's nearly half-century of aggression in Asia.
The Eurozone delivered a better-than-expected performance in the second quarter of 2026, with the GDP expanding by 0.4% quarter-on-quarter, up from flat growth in the first quarter and ahead of economists' expectations for a 0.2% increase. Across the EU, growth accelerated to 0.5% from 0.1% previously. Annual growth also strengthened, reaching 1.0% in the euro area and 1.2% across the EU. According to Pantheon macroeconomics calculations, the rebound in Ireland alone added 0.1 percentage points to headline Eurozone growth. It was followed by Lithuania, where the economy grew by 1.7%, and Sweden, which expanded by 1.4%. Europe's largest economies, Germany, France, and Italy, all expanded, but at a slower pace than previously. However, Belgium and Austria stagnated, recording no growth during the quarter. Economists say although the figures suggest the bloc is proving more resilient than feared, despite higher energy prices and continued geopolitical uncertainty, recent preliminary July data show pressures are ticking back up in major economies due to renewed energy shocks.
Two-thirds of children across Western Europe were exposed to extreme temperatures in the first half of 2026. That is according to a report by child rights organization Save the Children. This figure is 3 times the figure from the whole of last year. In Germany, the number of children exposed to extreme heat in the first 6 months of this year was larger than the last 5 years combined. And in the UK, 10 million children, which is more than the total for any single year in the past 30 years, have been exposed to extreme heat during this same time frame. Children are particularly vulnerable to the heat as they are undergoing physical development and have lower capacity for body temperature regulation. This puts them at high risk of electrolyte imbalance, fever, respiratory and kidney disease. To reverse the trend, a climate expert at Save the Children urged governments to take urgent climate action and work to reduce emissions.